But are there targets out there now? Let's discuss a few of those guys that might make sense for the Oklahoma Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts, free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So, Jay, there are still some really intriguing names out there in the transfer portal. I know there's one guy that you've been looking at and you would like to bring in to add to that cornerback room, and that's Arizona cornerback Tacario Davis.
He's number one on my list. Him and Ethan O'Connor, the corner from Washington State that is still floating around the portal. Those two dudes, man, those could really help bolster your room. And that doesn't push anybody out that we currently have. I mean, we just lost Kenai Walker, who has transferred. I think he's gone to Arkansas. So as you're losing out talent, you want to bring in some big talent. And Tacario's like a 6'3", 6'4" corner. He had a meh season last year, but he's actually really good. And I think, honestly, the biggest problem they had at Arizona was their offense was very inept, unfortunately. But that, to me, is one that I would love to get my hands on. I know that he entered the portal last year, and I know a lot of schools really wanted him, and he decided to go right back to Arizona. If he doesn't go pro, he is one that I would love to have here in Norman. He fits perfectly in this scheme, and at his size and ability, he'd be fantastic here in the SEC. And I think Javonni and Brent Venables is probably already put in a phone call, a text message, maybe a carrier pigeon to get him in. But between him and Ethan O'Connor are the two that I think at corner would be fantastic grabs for what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at adding a veteran to a group that you really like in Gentry Williams, Eli Bowen, and Jacoby Johnson, he would make a lot of sense. He's played a lot of snaps. He's played a lot of ball. He's played some high level football. We got to see him up close and personal in the Alamo Bowl at the end of the 2023 season. So Oklahoma probably has a good idea what they're looking at when they look at Tacario Davis. So an intriguing player there. At wide receiver, Dane Key is a guy that I think you should keep an eye on. The Kentucky wide receiver. He's got a big frame, 6'3". He's got some production at the SEC level, had 715 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns this year. Both in his freshman and sophomore years, he had 6 touchdowns apiece and over 500 yards receiving. So he's a productive player with good size, good frame. ESPN has him ranked as the number 6 portal player in the country right now. He might make a lot of sense. Again, if you're looking for somebody with SEC level production that's got a lot of experience that's in the portal, he would be a name that I think would move the needle for a lot of people and could be somebody that, and I talked about in the first segment, could be somebody that could come in and be a starting wide receiver for you right away.
Yeah, and you need some veterans to go along with the young guys. The young guys got the opportunity to play, but unfortunately they weren't able to immediately make an impact like they wanted to. But now you add some veterans in the mix with them. It gives them someone to see do it, and then they can do it too, to be able to understand better, like I said, in spacing, as well as altering routes as needed based upon, like, if your initial route doesn't hit the way it's supposed to, be able to make those adjustments. You need some veteran wide receivers to help with that. And I know Emmett Jones was also looking at guys that work better into what he's trying to do. So I could totally see that. Another one that was in the portal that we talked about, David Gusta, the defensive lineman, also from Washington State. Everybody has caught that young man, and he's one player that I would love to get my hands on as well, especially with not only with Dejon Terry being gone out of, he's out of eligibility, so his career is done in college football. You still don't know what's going on with Dominic Williams. Again, we mentioned in the first segment, I'm leaning that he's coming back, but because we don't have a definitive answer, we may as well take a gander at adding an additional player just so you have some additional size and beef in the middle. This doesn't stifle Jaden Jackson or even David Stone, heck, or even Nigel Smith, who did a fantastic job trolling everybody with his breaking news. I don't know why y'all think I'm leaving. I'm just changed my locker, which he did technically leave. He left his old locker for a new one within the same facility though. So, but you still need bodies. You're going to need additional bodies over time. And I think that he would be a very nice pickup to add into that room. Davin Sears is still around. You lost Champ Sanders in the portal. Marcus Strong is still out there. But you've got a lot of nice guys in the middle. But you do need a big dude that can handle, as a stuffer similar to Jaden Jackson to rotate. I think Gusto will be a fun one to have.
Yeah, he's a guy that makes a lot of sense. Again, big size, good experience, and he fills that Dejon Terry void in your defensive tackle rotation. And to me, he's also a, if Dominic Williams doesn't come back, kind of contingency plan. If Dominic Williams is back, I'm good to go. David Gusta would just be icing on the cake to add to that. I think another Washington State, we talked about him before, but Fa'alili Fa'omoe, the offensive tackle at Washington State, he's got 1 year left, but a guy that's got a lot of experience and could be a top 50, top 100 pick in the NFL draft if he were to go right now. Just a dude that's got a lot of talent. Anybody else out there in the portal, Jay, that you're really keeping your eye on?
Honestly, so it's kind of interesting. Like we talked about in the first segment, this portal one has not been the most, I guess, impressive. The Branch brothers, of course, are always of intrigue because you wonder where they're going to go. A lot of people are saying Oklahoma needs to go ahead and figure out a way to go after them. Your biggest problem is you got to bring in both. They come as a package deal. And the brother that's the safety, as nice as it will be have the additional body, we got a lot of safeties. Yep. Right. Robert Spears-Jennings is expected to come back. You got Peyton Bowen out there. Then you go down the list of the threesome that we added with Reggie Powers III, Jaden Hardy, and Michael Boganowski. That's 5 safeties right there. You brought in little man, Omarion Robinson, as well as Marcus Wimberly, who could rotate in between being a linebacker and safety. 7 safeties.
You're good.
You're good. You're good there. And then Kendall Doby and Samuel Mosigo rotates into your cheetah role with Reggie Powers. You kind of got too many. So you don't need that additional body. I mean, Branch would be fun to have, but I don't see it. But I think if one that we talked about a little bit, Jonte Cook, he ain't got a home yet. Kind of surprised. I know he was big Oklahoma guy coming in. You know, I think that was a Kel Gundy special there. Kind of surprised that Oklahoma may not have, tried to pull another Texas player in just for the fun of it. But the other one I thought Peyton was it Peyton Kirkland? I think he actually found a home. He left Texas, went to Oklahoma was one of his top 3s when he was a recruit. Went to Texas, transferred to Colorado. Now he's back in the portal. He just found a new home, but he would have been an intriguing pickup just to get in and stick it to some folks that said that Bill Bedenbaugh can't develop.
Yeah, the other one that was, I think the Jonte Cook would be a fascinating one where he would fall in the Oklahoma pecking order is interesting. I mean, he did do a little bit for Texas, not big production, but he did have 8 catches each of the last 2 seasons for 136, 137 yards. This year he had 2 touchdowns before entering the transfer portal. So I don't know. I'm not sure if that's a talent that Oklahoma would want to add. Based on some of the extra stuff that comes with that. But listen, sometimes you got to add some of those guys at wide receiver to.
Yeah, you need a little tick here there.
You need a little bit of diva sometimes in your wide receiver room. I don't know. That sometimes it's not a bad thing to have. But again, I don't think Oklahoma is at all done in the portal. I think there's some really intriguing names now, and there will be more intriguing names as the playoff rolls through. We'll see what they continue to do. But I think what they've done already is really solid, and it does set themselves up to have pretty good competitive depth in the spring and fall. But we'll see if it all works out. And that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in and being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. You can check out his channel, Unfair Sports, over on YouTube. You can follow me at John9Williams and read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer.
Sooner.
Oh, and have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Gotta put that in there.